I am so pleased to see so many people show up to an event like this. Democracy would not be possible without citizens that are willing to go to the effort to become informed like you are doing this evening. I think of all of the races, nothing is more difficult than a judicial race in terms of being an informed voter. There's no Republican or Democrat way to do this job. It's about being fair. What we do often is not well publicized, so it is hard to make an intelligent decision, and you have a tough job here. So I'm going to do my best to lay some things out about who I am and how I do things and what I have done. I am Ben Apfelbaum. I am your present magistrate judge. Today I am running on the Democratic ticket, but by way of full disclosure here, I am a lifelong Republican. But we pick our party, and in the primary, the voters pick where you go in a cross-filing election. That's how that works. I am as you can see, I am a parent. I think her grandma might be coming to get her soon, but we had a bit of everybody going in all kinds of different directions today, and I was blessed to have this little sweetheart with me today. That's my little daughter, Abigail. And I have a wonderful wife and two wonderful children, and I live presently in Sunbury. I grew up in Northumberland for a while, and then we moved to Lewisburg. I actually know Mr. Karlovich from growing up in Lewisburg, and he lives on Arch Street, as do I. And I'm an attorney. I became an attorney in 2003. I graduated from the Degenstein Law School, which, at least for that year, was the best law school in Pennsylvania because we had the highest bar passage rate for the first-time folks, and I'm proud to say I contributed to that. I passed the bar on my first attempt, and that made me very happy, because that was an unpleasant test to take. I remember my hands hurt a lot from taking that. It was a timed test, and I don't want to have to take it again. Since I became your judge, I've given this office that you've entrusted me in every effort of mine to do the best. I'm proud of my, boy, this is really, I'm just going to not use this. I'm going to try to speak up because this mic isn't working out so well for me. I've tried to do my best every day for you all and for everybody who comes before me to give them a fair hearing and to make the best decisions that I can make. So what's important for me is to get as much information as I can, and I rule based on the information that I have, and I always try to be fair. I always rule on the evidence. It's not who somebody is. It's not what they look like. It's none of that stuff. It's just what's the evidence. And I always rule on the evidence. And sometimes people don't like that because they expect us to make rulings based on, I don't know, what we think actually happened. And what I have to explain to people, particularly in situations that arise out of schools, is that no, it's based on the evidence before the court. Now, the reason I want to bring up the schools is we had several problems when I took office that became apparent to me when I took office. The first one was then District Attorney Rosini approached me and said, "Judge, we got a problem with students in the high school wandering around. They're not really where they're supposed to be in the school, and we have teachers and others saying, hey, aren't you supposed to be in your classroom?" And then these students would mouth off to the school employees, and that would cause a disruption. And what are we going to do about it? And I, at the time, told the district attorney, I remember in law school they told us that judges aren't supposed to give advisory opinions. You go ahead and you file what you want to file, and I'll deal with it appropriately. Well, nothing got filed in front of me, and eventually I approached him and I said, hey, what's going on? I never got anything. And he said, well, we didn't know what we were going to do, so we didn't want to embarrass anybody. And I said, okay, well, that's not working out. We got a problem in the school. And upon looking into it a bit more, I found out that any time that the police would respond, it would drive the parents berserk because people would see a police car in front of the school and think, oh no, what horrible thing happened in the school, and rumors would fly around, and the school office would be inundated with calls. So I suggested to the school, go ahead and file disorderly conduct charges on kids whose behavior is over the top. I don't want to be the principal. I really don't. I don't want the little infractions. That wouldn't be appropriate. But if things are really over the top and they're interfering with the education of other students in the school, and I think that probably was the situation there, because if you have a kid where he's not supposed to be in school and he starts swearing and cussing at the teacher in the hallway, well, that's going to be more exciting than the algebra lecture going on in the classroom, and the kids are going to be like, ooh, oh, and listening to that instead of their lesson. I couldn't think of anything worse than an algebra lecture. It would certainly distract me. But, and that worked. That worked. But the problem is then, I've got some negative feedback from some of the teachers. They say, these citations get filed and we sometimes the kids are found not guilty and they're mad at me for it. But the reason is because this isn't like, I'm not the principal's office. I have to have evidence, convictions beyond a reasonable doubt, that kind of thing. And, if the school isn't bringing forward the right evidence, I won't be able to find someone not guilty just because, yeah, I think that probably happened. I have to have proof. So that's an example of how that works. So I'm not up here abusing the rules, trying to make the community better. I'm following the law, okay? I'm not like an activist judge. I'm following the law. It's what I do. And that brings me to the next point about judicial activism. Right now I'm on the Democratic ticket. I'm a Republican Party member. None of that stuff matters because I believe in a doctrine called judicial restraint, and I believe in that wholeheartedly. There are laws that I like, there are laws that I don't like, and I consider myself to be a good judge because I follow all of them. And I substitute what I believe the will is of the legislature who created the law rather than my own interpretation of what I would like to see things happen. I am not a legislator, I'm not a king, I'm a judge. I follow the law that others make, and I try to restrain myself from my own views of things. I don't try to be biased in that regard either. So, and that's sort of a technical point, but it's something that I very firmly believe in. There's really no Republican or Democrat way to do this job if you're doing it correctly. I've had approximately 21,000 criminal cases that I've been responsible for. I don't want to fool you. I haven't had 21,000 cases in my courtroom. Many of these things are stuff that people pled guilty to. So there's a lot of accounting that goes into this. I'd only, of course, have the hearings where people pled not guilty for them. But there's still a lot of cases come through. And I have some great staff that helps that, but ultimately the buck stops here. Of all those 21,000 cases, to the best of my knowledge, I think I was reversed twice on appeal, and those were de novo hearings for animal cruelty, because I ordered jail time in 2 related cases for animal cruelty where the judge above me determined that a fine would have been more appropriate than the jail time. So now to explain what a de novo hearing means, that means that the whole trial gets handled all over again. Okay, so it's not necessarily that I did anything wrong. It could be that 5 different judges would have handled the case 5 different ways. And it just so happened that that judge handled things differently. I'm not up there making wacky decisions. Okay, so I don't think that I'm doing the job wrong, and I think I'm doing a good job for us. Now the other thing with school is when I first took this job, Judge Saylor, who's now our president judge, but he was not the president judge at the time, he called me into his office, and he said that we have a problem with truancy.
Finish your thought, Ben, time is up.
Hey, thanks. I'm looking forward to talking to you, but answering your questions.